What is going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great Monday. Hope you guys had a great weekend. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Black the Apple Guy, and I'm here with another video. This time I'm going to be doing a talk about the best budget camera lens for your Sony APS-C camera. Now, a lot of people, if you type up or look up best bang for your buck budget lens for a Sony APS-C camera, that's going to be anything from the Sony A6000 lineup, whether it's a 61, 63, 64, 65, or 66. Usually you're going to see a lot of videos referencing the Sigma 16mm f1.4. I would be one of those people that would also reference this as a great starting lens for your camera. But this lens is $400 on sale, and that's a lot of money, especially for someone who is starting their first YouTube channel. They bought their first APS-C Sony camera, and they're looking to want to upgrade their lens. Well, $400 is kind of expensive in terms of just upgrading from whether you bought the kit lens or just about the body itself. So I'm going to be talking about the best budget lens for your APS-C sensor camera. This is the Sony 16mm f2.8. Now, this is actually the first lens that I bought prior to me buying the Sigma 16mm. Now, in terms of operation-wise, in terms of what it looks like, there is not too much of a difference you can see between the f1.4 versus the f2.8, although this does gives you a much wider field than the 16mm or the f1.4. They're both manual exposure, so there is no zoom, there is no nothing. This is just your straight f1.4. This is just a straight f2.8. The only thing that you can spin on these is just going to be the manual exposure, whether to kind of clear out some of that blurriness that you get in the lens. In terms of size, as you can obviously see, this is a much bigger lens versus this one. This weighs 14 ounces, whereas this weighs 2 ounces. So I'm going to show you what it looks like between the two on a APS-C camera. So this is what it's going to look like on my A6400. Although it is a rather big lens and the camera is small, it does add a little bit of weight to the camera lens. So when you're using this in any type of vlogging forms, you can always hold the lens steady if you want to do any type of vloggings with it or kind of get some steady shots, as both of these lenses do not have any type of optical image stabilization in them or OSS as most Sony lenses normally have. So as you can see, that's how big that is on my A6400. Adds a little bit of weight. So we're going to throw on the f1. Or the f2.8, and then I'm going to show you what that looks like with the same or with a different lens. Again, smaller lens, lighter camera. Now this is what the 16mm f2.8 Sony lens looks like on my A6400. As you can see, it's just a much smaller lens, therefore the camera is not as heavy as if I had the Sigma line or the Sigma lens connected to it. So I don't have to worry about holding it steady to kind of keep the video from shaking. Again, neither one of these lenses have what is known as OSS or optical steady shot. You do have it in the camera itself, but it will not really do much for the lens as the lens does not have it. But it being a smaller lens, it makes it much easier to do any type of videos and still kind of keep your video from being all shaky and rocky. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to show you what the video looks like when I'm shooting it off of the Sony 16mm f2.8. And I'm going to switch from that from my Sony ZV-1 to this now. Now, as you can see, we are now shooting on the Sony 16mm f2.8. Now, as you can notice, the background is not as blurry, but there is a much more wider field of view. That's because with an f2.8, you get a much wider view versus an f1.4 lens where it's not as wide, but it's not as closed in as, say, if you were shooting with a 30mm f1.4. Now, again, budget-wise, this is the best bang for the buck if you're looking to buy your first lens for your Sony APS-C camera. Now again, these are APS-C censored cameras, so when you hit the record button, it does tend to crop in a little bit more, but with an f2.8, it being a wider angle lens, even with it cropped in, it is not as cropped in as, say, if I was shooting on my 30mm f1.4, where if I were to tap record, it gets a much more closer view. So it depends on your style of vlogging. For me, when I go on vacations, or should I say when I go back on vacations, I'm primarily only going to be taking really just two lenses, the Sony and my Sigma, whereas I do have a 16 to 50 millimeter power zoom lens. I don't really use it as much as I thought I would have, but in terms of just best bang for the buck, this is going to be my recommendation, as it is a $250 lens, but you can actually score it for around $230 on the Sony website. Some places you can even find it used for less than that. So if someone were to ask me what would be the best lens to buy for the APS-C censored camera, even if you've already bought one with a kit lens, which is typically going to be the 16 to 50 millimeter, I'm going to recommend the Sony 16mm f2.8, as it's a great secondary lens for your Sony camera. And as you can see in the example when I did the 16mm f1.4 for the Sigma versus this camera lens, weight-wise, the Sigma is about 14 ounces, whereas the Sony is 2 ounces. So weight-wise, this is going to be a much easier thing to hold in your camera, especially when you're doing any type of daily vloggings and you want to hold it in your hand, especially if you're the type of person who tends to kind of just accidentally stroll around and you accidentally swing your hand and hit something. Obviously hitting your lens is a bad thing, but with this having a much smaller lens on this camera, it leaves it it's much easier to pack up as well. Also, as you can actually leave the lens on that, pack it in your everyday gear and be good to go. Whereas on the Sigma, not so much, because it is a much bigger lens. So I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, please give me a thumbs up, as these likes will help me create better content. And if you want to see a comparison between my Sigma 16mm f1.4 versus the Sony f2.8, just drop a comment down below and I will make that video happen. But I also have a video on the differences between my Sigma lenses, the 16 and the 30mm. If you're interested in those two lenses, I can show you a little bit more, do a little bit more in depth on that, as well as doing a review on the 16mm itself. So again, I want to thank everybody for watching. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, that way you don't miss content when I drop it. And again, my name is Black Appeal, the Apple Guy, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, stay safe, peace.